The morning fog hung low over the Appalachian ridgeline as Detective Marcus Holland stood at the edge of what locals still called the Cursed Campground. 20 years on the force, and this case still gnawed at him like no other. October 2005, 5 college students from Virginia Tech drove into these woods for a weekend camping trip and never came back. Their cars were found at the trailhead, tents pitched perfectly, food still in coolers, no bodies, no blood, no explanation, just silence. Marcus had been a rookie then, watching his mentor fumble through dead ends while parents collapsed in grief. Now, holding a water-damaged SD card recovered from a hiker's backpack 3 days ago, he felt the old case pulling him back like an undertow. If you're watching this unfold with us, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment telling us where you're tuning in from. We want to know who's following this mystery alongside us. The card had been found wedged beneath a rotted log near Hawksbill Summit, 17 miles from where the students vanished. The tech team said it was a miracle anything survived on it at all. Marcus slipped it into the evidence bag and headed back to the station, his gut telling him this would change everything. 3 weeks earlier. Angela Reeves didn't expect to find anything when she went hiking. At 62, her knees complained on every incline, but the mountains had always been her refuge. Her daughter Emily had been one of those 5 students. For 18 years, Angela had walked these trails, searching for something, anything, that might tell her what happened to her baby girl. The backpack was partially buried, its fabric disintegrated from nearly 2 decades of weather. Angela almost walked past it. But something made her kneel, made her dig. Inside, beneath layers of decomposed nylon and dead leaves, her fingers found something hard, rectangular. A small plastic case. When she opened it and saw the SD card, her hands shook so violently she nearly dropped it. No label. No identification, just a tiny piece of technology that had somehow survived when everything else had rotted away. She didn't open it herself. She was too afraid. Instead, she drove straight to the county sheriff's office and asked for Detective Holland. The files. Marcus sat in the dim light of the forensics lab as Jamie Chen, their digital specialist, worked to extract the data. The card was corrupted, damaged by moisture and time, but Jamie was patient. 3 hours later, she leaned back in her chair. "Got something," she said quietly. The first file opened, a video, shaky footage of 5 young people setting up camp, laughing, tossing a frisbee. Marcus recognized them immediately from the case files he'd memorized. Emily Reeves, 20 years old, strawberry blonde hair tied back. Jackson Porter, the unofficial leader, always smiling. His girlfriend, Vanessa Liu, small and fierce. The twins, Ryan and Rebecca Hammond, finishing each other's sentences. They looked so alive, so normal. Marcus watched file after file. Daytime hikes, campfire cooking, Rebecca trying to scare everyone with a ghost story, while Ryan threw pine cones at her. The timestamp showed October 14th, 2005. Friday evening. Then the footage shifted. Saturday night. The fire had burned down to embers. The camera angle was low, as if someone had propped it on a log. The timestamp read 11:47 p.m. Jackson's voice tense. "Did you hear that?" "Hear what?" Vanessa moved closer to him. "Footsteps, something moving out there." Ryan laughed nervously. "Probably a deer, man. We're in the woods." But Emily stood up, her face turned toward the darkness beyond the firelight. "That's not a deer. Listen." The audio picked up something, rhythmic, deliberate, branches cracking under weight. Rebecca whispered, "Should we check it out?" "No." Jackson's voice was firm. "Everyone stay by the fire. Ryan, where's the bear spray?" The camera captured their faces in the flickering orange light, fear replacing the earlier joy. Then the footsteps stopped. Silence. Vanessa exhaled. Maybe it left. The next sound made Marcus's blood run cold. A voice, human, Male, coming from somewhere beyond the camera's view. "Help me!" All 5 students froze. "Please, I'm hurt. I need help." Emily took a step forward. Jackson grabbed her arm. Wait. Someone's injured out there. Something's wrong about this." Jackson's instincts were good, Marcus thought. The kid felt it. "Help me." The voice was closer now, just beyond the tree line. "Please, I can't move." Ryan grabbed a flashlight. "We can't just ignore someone who's hurt." Rebecca stood beside her brother. "We'll go together. All of us." The camera stayed on the log as all 5 of them moved toward the voice, their flashlight beams cutting through the darkness. Their voices grew distant. "Hello? Where are you?" "Keep talking so we can find you." Then nothing, just the crackling fire and the wind in the trees. 1 minute passed, 2, 5. The fire popped, sending sparks into the air. At the 7-minute mark, the camera picked up sounds, running, screaming, multiple voices overlapping. "Go, go, go! Don't look back!" Then Emily's voice, raw with terror. "It's not human!" The camera shook as someone grabbed it. The footage blurred. Trees, sky, darkness spinning, heavy breathing, more running. Then the screen went black. The timestamp showed 11:58 p.m. That was the last video file. The investigation reopens. Marcus called in every favor he had. The case was officially reopened. The FBI sent a team. Search and rescue crews descended on the area, using ground-penetrating radar and cadaver dogs. He drove to Angela Reeves's house on a gray Thursday morning. She answered the door with hollow eyes, looking like she hadn't slept since she'd brought him the SD card. "You saw it," she said. Not a question. "Yes." "What happened to my daughter?" Marcus sat at her kitchen table, the same table where he'd delivered non-updates for 18 years. "I don't know yet, but we're going to find out. They ran from something that made them scream." Angela's voice cracked. "What was out there?" "The videos being analyzed by experts, audio specialists, behavioral analysts. We're examining every frame. Do you think they're alive?" It was the question he couldn't answer. 18 years was a long time, but he'd learned never to steal hope from a mother. "I think we're closer to the truth than we've ever been." Angela pulled out an old photo album. Pictures of Emily as a child, riding a bike, graduating high school. She wanted to be a wildlife biologist. She loved these mountains. Her fingers traced her daughter's face. "I need to know what happened. Even if it's the worst thing imaginable, I need to know." Marcus put his hand over hers. "That's what I'm here for." By the audio analysis. Back at the lab, Marcus met with Dr. Patricia Owens, a forensic audio specialist from Quantico. She'd been working on the voice that called for help. "It's strange," she said, playing the isolated audio. "The pitch is human, but there's something off about the cadence, like someone's trying too hard to sound injured." "You think it was a lure?" "I think whoever made that sound wanted those kids to come into the woods. The pattern, the repetition, the pauses, it's calculated." Marcus felt sick. "So someone was hunting them." "That's what the evidence suggests." "Can you identify the voice? Match it to anyone?" Patricia shook her head. "It's too distorted. And there's background noise I can't quite isolate. Something mechanical. Maybe very faint." She played it again. Beneath the voice calling for help, Marcus heard it, a low hum, almost like an engine idling. A vehicle? Possibly. Or a generator, something running nearby. Marcus thought about the terrain. The campsite was accessible by car, but the area where the backpack was found required hours of hiking. They ran 17 miles through rough terrain at night, in a panic, or they were chased. The thought had occurred to Marcus, but hearing it aloud made it real. 5 students running for their lives through the Appalachian wilderness, away from someone, or something, that had mimicked distress to draw them out. The FBI behavioral analyst Agent Torres joined them. I've been reviewing the daytime footage, looking at their interactions, their route. And they were being watched. I'm almost certain of it. Torres pulled up footage from Saturday afternoon. The 5 students hiking along a ridgeline. She zoomed in on the background, enhancing the image. In the tree line, barely visible, a dark shape, human-sized. Could be a hiker, Marcus said, though he didn't believe it. Here's footage from 3 hours later. Different location, 2 miles east. Torres showed another clip, the same dark shape, same distance, always watching. They were being stalked. For how long, we don't know, but by Saturday night, whoever it was made their move. Marcus stared at the frozen frame. We need to find out who owned property in that area in 2005, who had access, who would know those trails well enough to track people at night. Already on it, Torres said. There were 6 private properties within a 10-mile radius. We're tracking down the owners. The search crews found something on day 4, not bodies, something worse, a structure, hidden deep in a ravine, camouflaged so well it had evaded detection for nearly 2 decades, built partially underground, reinforced with concrete and timber. Marcus stood at the entrance, his flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. The smell hit him first, rot and dampness and something chemical. The walls were covered with photographs. Dozens of them, Polaroids and printed images tacked up in neat rows. Marcus's stomach turned as he recognized faces from missing persons cases spanning 3 decades. Men, women, teenagers. Some he knew, others he'd never seen. And there in the center, like trophies, Emily Reeves, Jackson Porter, Vanessa Liu, Ryan and Rebecca Hammond. We need forensics in here now, Marcus said into his radio, his voice steady, despite the rage building in his chest. The structure was divided into 3 rooms. The first contained the photographs and what appeared to be a monitoring station, old VHS equipment, CB radios, topographical maps with routes marked in red ink. The second room held supplies, canned food, water, batteries, medical kits, enough to sustain someone for months. The third room was locked. Marcus waited for the tactical team to breach it. When the door swung open, he understood why it had been sealed. Personal items, backpacks, clothing, jewelry, each item tagged with a date and location, a catalogued collection of victims' belongings, organized with disturbing precision. He found Emily's university sweatshirt folded neatly in a plastic bin marked October 2005. But no bodies, not here. This was a base camp, Agent Torres said, pulling on latex gloves to examine the maps. Look at these markings, different colors for different years. This person was hunting in a pattern, rotating through sections of the forest. Marcus studied the map, red marks clustered in specific areas, each annotated with dates. Hunting grounds. And this structure gave them a place to observe, to plan, to store evidence. Whoever built this knew these mountains intimately. A forensics tech called out from the first room. "Detective, you need to see this." Marcus found her holding a leather journal, its pages yellowed and brittle. The handwriting inside was small, methodical, entries dating back to 1987. He read the first page and felt his blood turn to ice. October 12th, 1987. Couple from Richmond. Too easy. They never heard me coming. The woman screamed, but sound doesn't carry well in the ravine. The man tried to fight. Mistake. Neither will be found. The forest keeps its secrets. Entry after entry, documenting hunts like a sportsman recording trophy kills. Different victims, different methods, but always the same ending. Disposal in locations that would never yield bodies. Marcus flipped to October 2005. October 14th, 2005. New group. 5 college students. Inexperienced. Loud. Perfect. Saturday night I will use the distress call. Works every time. Their compassion is their weakness. The final entry was dated October 15th, 2005. They ran, faster than expected, lost them near Hawksbill. The girl dropped something while running, didn't stop to retrieve it. Smart, but it doesn't matter. The forest is my home. They won't leave it alive. The journal ended there. No more entries, as if whoever had written it simply vanished the same night as the students. The property records. Agent Torres had the breakthrough 2 days later. One property owner matches our profile. Bernard Hutchins, age 63 in 2005. Former park ranger, lived alone in a cabin 8 miles from where we found the structure. No family, no close associates. Applied for disability in 1986 due to a back injury and retired early. Marcus pulled up the file. Bernard Hutchins stared back from a driver's license photo. Gaunt face, deep-set eyes, graying beard. Where is he now? That's the thing. He disappeared in October 2005. Neighbors reported not seeing him after the middle of the month. His cabin was found abandoned the following spring. Authorities assumed he died in the woods. No body was ever recovered. He disappeared the same time as the students. Exactly. Marcus drove out to the old Hutchins property. The cabin was a shell now, roof caved in, walls rotting. But the land around it told a different story. Trails, barely visible, leading in multiple directions. Markers carved into trees, symbols that meant nothing to most hikers, but would have guided someone who knew the code. Behind the cabin, Marcus found a workshop. Inside, among rusted tools and decaying furniture, he discovered maps. Identical to the ones in the hidden structure, but these showed something more: underground passages, natural cave systems throughout the mountain range. He knew every cave, every hollow, every place a body could disappear, Marcus said to Torres, who joined him. This whole mountain was his killing field. Torres pointed to one cave system marked with an asterisk. What's special about this one? The notation beside it read, "Final sanctuary, deep, secure, forever. Ubijat." The cave. The rescue team descended into the cave system 3 days later. Marcus insisted on going with them, despite the danger. The entrance was a narrow fissure in the rock face, hidden behind a waterfall that had to be rappelled to reach. Inside, the cave opened into a massive chamber. Their light swept across limestone formations that had taken millennia to form. Beautiful and terrible. In the center of the chamber, they found what they'd been searching for: 5 bodies, arranged in a circle, covered with stones in what looked like a burial ritual. Beside them, a 6th body, older, deteriorated differently. Bernard Hutchins, identified by dental records later, though Marcus knew immediately. Dr. Leslie Kim, the forensic anthropologist, worked carefully to document everything. Cause of death for the students appears to be blunt force trauma, multiple skull fractures, quick at least. They didn't suffer long. And Hutchins? Kim examined the 6th body carefully. Self-inflicted gunshot wound, the weapon still here. She pointed to a rusted revolver near the skeletal remains. Marcus tried to piece it together. He chased them here, killed them, then killed himself? Or they fought back, Torres suggested. Look at Hutchins's remains. Fractured ribs, broken arm. These injuries happened before death. Maybe they managed to hurt him, and he knew he couldn't make it out. Kim nodded. That's consistent with what I'm seeing. He was severely injured before he used the gun. Near the bodies, they found more items. The students' cell phones, long dead. A handwritten note protected in a plastic bag, Emily's handwriting. If anyone finds this, we tried to run, we tried to fight. Tell our families we didn't give up. Tell them we loved them. Jackson and Ryan are already gone. Vanessa is hurt badly. Rebecca and I are going to try one more time to escape. If you're reading this, we didn't make it. His name is Bernard. He lives in the mountains. He's done this before. Don't let him do it again. The date on the note, October 16th, 2005, 3:00 a.m. Marcus closed his eyes. They'd survived almost 24 hours after the initial attack. Fighting, running, hiding. 2 days of terror before meeting their end in this cave. They were so brave, Torres said quietly. They deserved better. The truth revealed. The forensic investigation took 3 months. By January, Marcus had the complete picture. Bernard Hutchins had been killing people in the Appalachian wilderness since at least 1987. 23 confirmed victims based on the journal entries and matching DNA from the personal items recovered. The actual number could be higher. He'd used his knowledge as a former park ranger to select victims and evade detection. The hidden structure had been built gradually over years, allowing him to operate with impunity. His method was consistent: isolate victims in remote areas, use various tactics to separate them from safety, then hunt them through terrain he knew intimately. The camping group in October 2005 had been his final victims, but not because he'd planned it that way. The evidence suggested that after initially attacking and killing Jackson and Ryan, the remaining 3 students had fought back fiercely. Emily, Vanessa, and Rebecca had armed themselves with rocks and branches. They'd managed to injure Hutchins severely. The broken ribs likely punctured his lung. Wounded and unable to pursue them effectively, Hutchins had tracked them to the cave system where they'd tried to hide. The final confrontation had been brutal. He'd killed all 3, but the effort had pushed his injured body past its limits. Knowing he couldn't make it back out of the cave, bleeding internally and in severe pain, he'd taken his own life. The SD card had fallen from Emily's pocket during their desperate flight through the woods. She'd been carrying the camera, documenting their trip. When Hutchins attacked, she'd grabbed it instinctively, running with it until the card jarred loose somewhere along the 17-mile path of terror. For 18 years, it had waited beneath that log, holding the truth. Closure. Marcus arranged for Angela Reeves to visit the cave before they sealed it permanently. She stood at the entrance, unable to go inside, but needing to be close to where her daughter had spent her final moments. She fought, Marcus told her. The evidence shows Emily fought hard. She tried to save her friends. She left a note hoping someone would find it and stop him. She was brave until the very end. Angela's tears fell silently. Did she know that he couldn't hurt anyone else? I think in those final moments, yes. Hutchins died in that cave with them. After Emily, there were no more victims. She stopped him, even if she didn't live to see it. My baby saved lives. She did. And the families of all 23 confirmed victims were notified. Some had been waiting decades for answers. The case made national headlines: the scope of Hutchins's crimes, the horrific discovery in the cave, and the bravery of 5 young people who'd refused to die quietly. A memorial was erected at the original campsite where the students had spent their last happy hours. 5 stones, engraved with their names, arranged in a circle like they'd sat around that final campfire. Emily Ann Reeves, Jackson David Porter, Vanessa Marie Liu, Ryan Thomas Hammond, Rebecca Louise Hammond. Marcus attended the dedication ceremony. Angela spoke, her voice stronger than he'd ever heard it. For 18 years I walked these mountains searching for my daughter. I thought I'd never find peace. But knowing the truth, knowing she fought, knowing she was brave, that's something. Emily loved these woods. She studied them, respected them, wanted to protect them. It's fitting that they kept her secret safe until the right moment, until someone could give us answers. She turned to Marcus. Thank you for never forgetting them. I never could, he said honestly. The aftermath. Marcus retired 6 months later. The case had taken everything from him, but it had also given him something: closure. Not just for the families, but for himself. He'd spent 20 years carrying the weight of those missing students. Now, he could finally set it down. He still hiked the trails sometimes, not searching anymore, just walking, remembering. The forest had kept its secrets for nearly 2 decades, but in the end, truth had a way of emerging. A damaged SD card, a mother's determination, and a killer's own meticulous records had combined to reveal what happened on that October night in 2005. Bernard Hutchins had taken 23 lives, but he hadn't won. Every victim was now identified, every family notified. The hidden structure was dismantled, the cave sealed, the journal archived as evidence of evil that had finally been stopped. On quiet mornings, when the fog hung low over the ridgeline, just like it had that day he'd first stood at the cursed campground, Marcus thought about Emily and her friends, how they'd come to the mountains seeking adventure and found horror instead. How they'd faced unimaginable terror with courage. How even in death they'd managed to prevent future killings. The Appalachian wilderness stretched out before him, vast and beautiful and indifferent. It had witnessed everything, the hunts, the deaths, the final desperate fight in the darkness. Now it held memorials instead of secrets. Angela Reeves had started a foundation in her daughter's name, providing safety education for hikers and funding for improved search and rescue operations. Jackson's parents established a scholarship for aspiring park rangers who wanted to protect these mountains. The other families found their own ways to honor their children's memories. And somewhere in the digital archives, preserved forever, was footage of 5 young people laughing around a campfire, unaware that they had mere hours left, but also preserved was their courage, their fight, and ultimately the evidence that brought a serial killer's reign of terror to light. Marcus stood at the memorial, touching Emily's stone. "You did good, kid. You stopped him. Your mom knows. Everyone knows." The wind moved through the trees, carrying the last warmth of autumn. Soon winter would blanket these mountains in snow, covering the trails where so much tragedy had unfolded. But spring would come again, as it always did, bringing renewal. The case of the missing camping group was finally closed. Not with the ending anyone had hoped for 18 years ago, but with truth, justice, and the knowledge that even in humanity's darkest moments, courage could shine through. Marcus turned and walked back down the trail, leaving the memorial behind. The forest would keep watch over them now, its secrets finally told, its silence no longer sinister but peaceful. The SD card that had survived against all odds sat in an evidence locker, its mission complete. 5 young lives, documented and remembered. A killer's final victims, but also his downfall, and a reminder that sometimes, even after years of darkness, light finds a way through.